This is Steve Wright for Imagineer Systems with a tutorial on exporting roto shapes, mats, and tracking data with Mocha. Mocha can export tracking or stabilizing data, four-corner pin data, roto shape data, and rendered mats formatted for a long list of other applications. Imagineer has many tutorials on exporting to After Effects, so in this tutorial we'll be exporting to Nuke. To ensure compatibility with the application that you are exporting to, be sure that the Mocha clip length, frame rate, interlace mode, pull-down mode, and pixel aspect ratio match your main project. As we've seen in earlier tutorials, Mocha will export tracking data to a long list of applications. And by the way, if you use After Effects, there's many fine tutorials on this website for you. But this time we're going to take a look at Nuke. So let's load a clip. We'll go to File, New Project, choose, browse to where you have the bas-relief.movie, and we'll open that. First thing we need to fix is the pixel aspect ratio, and also the separate fields turn to off. We'll say OK, and let's play the clip to see what we got. Okay, so we got a handheld wobbly camera that has a nice pull-out. This will offer us a good tracking problem. We'll stop that, go to the first frame. I'm just going to use an X-spline and just do a quick click around the perimeter. I love this planar tracker. You don't have to place them carefully. You can even go off the frame, no problem. Okay, so we'll track forward. And the planar tracker, of course, is going to lock onto this. I have the tracking motion set for translation, scale, rotate, and shear. Okay, tracking's done. So let's play that and go, yep, I got some good track data. All right, next, we'll come down here to the export tracking data and pop that up. And we'll go to the format pop-up list and scroll down and pick Nuke ASCII text. By the way, if you want to turn the tracking data into stabilization data, you can click Invert here, and all the data will be inverted. So here's the basic workflow. We're going to export this Nuke ASCII text files as 4 separate tracking data files. Then we'll start Nuke and load each file into Nuke's tracker node. Next, we'll click Save. I'm going to create a new folder for my tracking data. You don't have to do this, but I like to be neat. Create the new folder. And we're going to name them Foo. Now, if you don't put in a prefix, it'll take on the name of the layer right here. Okay, but I wanted to show you how to do this prefix thing. So we'll save that. And now the data has been exported to that folder. Let's take a look. I'm going to open up a Finder window. Here's my Foo folder. And there's my Foo trackers. Trackers 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what we're going to load into Nuke. Okay, we'll close this. Now let's start Nuke. And here's my clip. And we're going to import that tracking data and then use it to do a match move of a graphic element. All right, so we'll stop that. We'll go to frame 1, very important, go to frame 1. We'll bring in a roto node, rehome the viewer, and I'm going to just create a graphic element that just fits right here in the corners. Very simple. And then we'll just do a merge over the background, like that. Okay. And I'll set the merge node just for the red channel so I can dial in the amount of transparency that I want. Okay, we're done with all those. And now if we play the clip, of course, my graphic element is not tracked to the background. All right, so let's make it track. We'll select the roto node, come up here to the Transform tab, and bring in a tracker node. Tracker 1 is enabled. So we'll go to the Track 1 animation icon and do a pop-up and go get Import ASCII, browse to our destination, select our Foo folder, and we'll select our first tracker, tracker1.txt. We'll open that, and all of the defaults here will be fine, so we'll just click OK, and now tracker 1 has been loaded with the tracking data from Mocha, and you can see it's down here in the corner. Okay, let's repeat that for tracker 2. First, though, you have to enable it, or you can't load the file. Then we'll do our import ASCII thing, browse, get tracker 2. Open. OK. enable tracker 3, File, Import, tracker 3, Open, OK, and finally enable tracker 4, File, Import ASCII, and tracker 4, Open. Okay, all 4 trackers have been loaded with the mocha tracking data, and if I play the clip, we can see that it's not yet match moved. So, we'll stop that. Before we set the transform tab for match move, there's a very important step we have to do with the Nuke tracker node. We have to turn on translation, rotate, and scale for all 4 of the trackers. If we don't, the tracker node will not use all the tracker data. Alright, once all the trackers have been enabled for translate, rotate, and scale, we'll go to the transform tab, set the transform to match move. Okay, now I can fold away my tracker node, play my clip, and my graphic element is beautifully match moved to my background plate. Alright, we'll stop that, go to frame 1, and next we'll take a look at how to use the exported tracking data to stabilize the plate. It's really very simple. We'll just make a copy of tracker 1, copy here, paste there, hook it to our background plate, hook up the viewer. All I have to do is go to this tracker and tell it to set the transform to stabilize. Okay, I'll zoom out a little bit in the window. We'll hide all the on-screen tracking controls, and now we'll play the clip, and we can see that it's now beautifully stabilized. And we'll stop that and go to frame 1. Next, let's see how to export 4-corner pin tracking data from Mocha to Nuke. To export corner pin data with Mocha, there's an extra step. We have to set up the planar surface to show Mocha exactly where the corners are to be placed. So we'll start by enabling the planar surface, put them in the corners that we want, like so, and here, and there. And of course, since this is going to be positioned exactly where we put them, we want to position the corners very carefully, like so. Okay, I'll rehome the viewer. All right, so the corner pin data that we export to Nuke is going to place the corners exactly where each of the corners of the planar surface are. Now, if you've done an adjust track to any of your tracking data, you can export the adjusted tracking data right here. We'll go back to our Track tab, and now we'll export the corner pin data. So we'll select Export Tracking Data, go to the pop-up, slide down, and select Nuke Corner Pin.nk. Now here's what's going to happen. Mocha is going to actually write out a Nuke script. And in that script will be one single corner pin node, all filled out, ready to go. So we'll say Save. And note that the name of the Nuke script is going to be the same as the layer that you have selected. Of course, you could rename that if you wanted to, but I don't want to. So I'm going to save this. And now we'll take a look in our Finder. There is our Nuke script ready to load. All right, so close the Finder. And now we're ready to switch to Nuke to load in the corner pin data. I'm showing you how to export the corner pin node as a Nuke script because it's a bit involved. However, as we'll see shortly, you can also just save the corner pin node to the clipboard with the Copy to Clipboard button right next to the Save button. Then paste it directly into Nuke. Here's Nuke with the bas-relief clip already loaded, and we can play that and see, yes indeed, we have our bas-relief clip. Okay. So we want to corner pin a graphic element right on this clip. So I'm just going to use the checkerboard for my graphic element. With checkerboard selected, we'll go to File, Import Script. This is where we add a Nuke script to a current Nuke script. Browse to our destination and select the Nuke script that has the corner pin node in it. All right, next we'll just hook up a merge node so we can clump this over the background, and voila, we're done. I'm going to just set a little transparency so that we can prove that this thing is corner pinned very nicely to the bas-relief. Okay, we'll stop that to show you one very important thing about this corner pin node. I'm going to clear the property bin, double-click on the corner pin node. Now, if we want to refine the position of our graphic element, This corner happens to be 0.3. We can go to the From tab and adjust the From position in order to do the fine-tuning. However, you will not be able to adjust these parameters until you've cleared something out of the equations. Let's open up the expression, and you can see that Mocha has put in the Nuke reserved variables width and height. You will not be able to adjust those with these variables in here. So what we have to do is we say, no animation, confirm, and now I'm free to adjust the From tab to do any fine-tuning I may need to do to the corners of my graphic element. Now that we've seen how to export the tracking data, let's take a look at how to export Mocha spline shapes to Nuke. Mocha offers a very elegant and simple method of exporting its splines to Nuke. We'll start by playing this clip here, where I've already tracked in this shape here. So we'll stop that, go to frame 1, and I'll turn on 3 shapes that I've already drawn. And these have all been connected to the tracks. So I'm going to show you character 1 and the other 2 have already been linked to the track. So now they all move with the track layer. Okay, we'll stop that. Now I'm going to hide the track layer because I have an option for exporting only the visible splines. To export the splines to Nuke, we simply come down here to the Export Shape Data. By the way, you have to have a spline selected. If you don't, the export is ghosted. So we'll enable that. Go back to Export Shape Data. The first field is you must select the Nuke Roto Paint node. Next, you have the export options. You can export one layer, all the visibles, and all of the layers. I do not want to export the track layer, so I'm going to select all visible layers. Now, we can save this to a disk as a Nuke script and import it like we saw earlier, but the more elegant, of course, is we're going to simply copy to clipboard. Click on that. Okay, let's switch to Nuke. And I'll select the read node and simply do a paste with Command or Control V. And we now have our Roto Paint node in here. And I can play the clip. And you can see that all the splines are now tracked correctly. Let's stop that. And let's take a look at the Roto Paint node property panel. We'll open that up here. What I wanted to show you is that each of the layers in Mocha has come over as a folder in Nuke. Character 3, Character 2, Character 1. Inside the folder is the actual spline. And we can turn the splines on and off. And we can also change their attributes here. Now let's go back to Mocha to see another issue. I'm going to select Character 3. And I'm going to choose the Add a Bezier to the same layer. Okay, we'll select that, and I'm just going to draw a real quick, simple shape. And we'll do one more. So the Character 3 layer now has 3 splines in it. Let's go see how that shows up in Nuke. Once again, Export Shape Data. Select the Nuke Roto Paint node. Select all visible layers, and copy to clipboard. Okay, we'll switch to Nuke. Delete the old Roto Paint node. With the read node selected, paste that in. And we now have all 3 shapes that are part of the Character 3 layer. And if we play that, of course, they're tracked along with everything else. Let's take a look at the property panel and see how Nuke has organized this. Here it is. The Character 3 folder now represents the Character 3 layer in Mocha, and there are now 3 splines inside that one layer. So this is how Nuke treats a layer that has more than one spline in it. Now that we've seen how to export tracking data, corner pin data, and splines, it's time to take a look at rendering the mats themselves to disk. Let's say we have these 3 roto shapes here, so we'll take a look at the workflow for rendering the mats to disk. Let's start by looking at rendering just one layer. So I'll select the Character 03 layer and come up to File, Export Rendered Shapes, and here, Mats for Layers Selected. This is saying I only want to render the one selected layer. There's other options down here. So if we wanted to render all of the mats, we would then deselect, come up to the File, Export Rendered Shapes, and now the selected option is ghosted out, and we can choose between all visible and all. Now all would of course include the track shape, which I do not want, so I'm going to go to all visible. There's no option in the dialog box for an in and out frame range if you want to render less than the whole clip. To do that, just set in and out points on the timeline and the renderer will honor those. For the render style, I'm going to choose matte only. What that will do is it'll give me a one-channel grayscale image with all three mattes in it. Next, down here, image sequence or QuickTime movie. If you want a QuickTime movie, select here, but I'm going to do an image sequence since that's the most common workflow. The directory is, of course, the path name to where you're going to be rendering, and of course you must pre-build the folder, your destination folder, before you set off the render. Then you can browse to it here. Next is the file format. From this pop-up, I'm going to use TIFF because that's the most common ever. Prefix, very important. You have to type in the prefix you want for each frame, so I'm going to type mats dot. I'm putting a period in here. If you don't put in a period, then the prefix will be run together with the numbers all in one big glop. Index start. This is not the start frame of the render. This is the name of the first frame in the clip. So if I said 10, it would render frame 1 and save it out as frame 10. I don't want that, so I'll put it back. Index width is the padding, and I'm going to pad to 4 places, and click OK. Up here is the progress bar. Render is done. So let's take a look in the folder. All right, so here's my render. Mats dot is my prefix, padded to 4 places, and I have 48 frames. And a quick check says, yes, I've got my 3 characters all together in one black and white image. Next, we'll go to Nuke and load them in. So I'll punch up a read node, browse to the path if I need to, select my mats clip, and say open. Connect them to a viewer, and Nuke loads the clip as a one-channel image. Note that when Nuke loads a one-channel image, it puts it into the red channel of the viewer. There you go. Okay? You're now ready to shuffle this into any channel you wish and start using your mocha mats. Mocha is designed to make it quick and easy to render your mats to disk in a great variety of file formats so that you can use them in any application you want.